Good morning. Another week of Midweek Mindfreak. And this week we're going to be talking about simple ways to improve your memory. So thank you guys for tuning in for another week of Midweek Mindfreak.
Chuck and Angela run multiple million-dollar companies. They are members of Riz Media's Billionaire Club, have coached and mentored thousands of agents, and are international speakers. They say by radically changing your mindset, not only can you change your outlook on life, but affect the actual results you obtain. Welcome to Midweek Mindfreak.
Good morning, Vietnam. Hey, that's a good test right now for memory. Who remembers that movie?
I do.
Tell me the name of that. I'm not asking you. The name of that movie and who was the head actor in that movie. Put it in the comments. Oh, we got to get the comments going. Where are the comments? Here.
Right there. There we go.
All right. Nobody has
Maybe
the
there
name
is
of that
probably a
movie.
delay.
Yeah, oh, it's a delay.
Yeah.
So that's what we're going to be talking about is memory. It's just cool the way you could think of something from the past and then something will stir it and
You have an excellent memory.
get it to the forefront of your mind. You know, from the moment that we're born, our brains are just bombarded with information overload. And I think more than ever, information is just coming at us from all angles. So how does your mind process that? How does it work? How do you retain it? And we're going to talk about some of these things today about memory and why some people feel like maybe they don't have good memory. Well, there's actually some things that we'll discuss today on why that's the case. So I believe memory is one of the greatest gifts God has given us. It's the ability to think of the past, to rehash memories. Now, not all memories are good memories. Unfortunately, some of them are bad memories, and you try to erase that from your mind. But they are memories nonetheless, and I think it is a gift from God. I think the human mind is probably one of the most complex things in the universe.
And fascinating, actually.
You know, it's really crazy. I don't know if you're like us, but we ponder things and what God has created and what He does. And it's just truly mind-boggling when you think of the human mind and what it's capable of doing. And obviously why we have this podcast, Midweek Mind Freak, because it's like a freak of nature, the mind is. And so pretty crazy stuff. But let's talk about what is memory. So let's really analyze what is memory. It's the ability by which the brain encodes, stores, and retrieves information. Think about that. Encodes, so processes, stores it, and then how you could retrieve it. You go in. You know, the computer, that's a good way of thinking about it on a physical way. But computers didn't always exist, but our brain functions like a high performance computer, which is, I don't know, I'm always amazed by the power of the human mind and how it could retrieve memories. But here's a crazy stat. They say statistically, we lose 90% of everything we learn after learning it. 90%. So you could sit there and be listening today, and 90% of the stuff we're going to tell you, you're going to immediately lose. And I don't know, it's kind of...
I just lost what you said. What'd you say?
I know, you're good at that. Well, because one of the things we'll be talking about is why you lose those things fairly quickly. Because most details that you learn, we could actually train your mind to remember the things that we think would be important. And simple things that we'll be talking about. But why do you think the mind doesn't retain 90%?
We're not using the right techniques.
Nope, not the right
Not
answer.
the right answer.
No, why do you think anybody out there know, why do you think 90% of you hear, you lose right away? 90%. No, you had your chance and you failed. Nobody wants to take, nobody wants to act
Nobody's
with us
Googling
today.
it.
Don't Google it. Here's why. Our brain only can maintain and hold so much. Oh, not truly pain. Out there. I guess most people aren't even paying attention right now because nobody even guessed. No emotional connections
that's
to
not
the
a bad
thought.
answer. That's not a bad answer right
That
there.
is one.
Oh, there goes Debbie.
Here we go. Oh, I don't know, by our Facebook user.
Hi,
You know,
Facebook
guys,
user.
if you sign in, your names will actually pop up there when you do it. So anyway, here's why. Believe it or not, our brain only could store so much.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't have an infinite amount of memory that it can hold. So it tries to process what it should retain and not retain. And that's why these simple tricks we're going to talk about will help in that process.
Right.
So if we lose a lot of it, what if we want to keep some of it? Because if you really think about it, going through the day, most of the stuff you don't really care to keep in your mind and store in memory.
Right.
So that's what we're going to be talking about with that. Let's see. You ever watch Jeopardy?
Yes.
You guys ever watch Jeopardy and you're just truly amazed?
Astounded.
Like,
how do they know all that?
Oh no, I was just talking about that Alex Trebek is still on there. That astounds me.
What's the Wheel of Fortune guy's name?
And he hasn't changed one bit.
Yeah.
It's I think he's sold it to the devil.
I would be bored.
Yeah.
I don't do anything that long.
That's got to be crazy. Yep, him and Vanna White and Wheel of Fortune.
What's the guy's name?
I don't know.
The Wheel of Fortune guy?
Anybody
What's the Wheel of Fortune guy's name?
No, not Alex. Who is Alex Trebek? David March.
Yeah, it's doing a Jeopardy style.
Yeah.
Anyway, back to memories.
Boy, we sidetracked.
Yeah. Come on, get to the tips. People want to know.
What about patience? That maybe one day we'll do something on patience, and we'll talk about that. Because I am a man of many patience.
Yeah, you're a doctor.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Move on.
All right. So anyway, if you think about like people on Jeopardy, you go, how do they store that much stuff up there? I mean, it's Pat Sajak.
Thank you, David Marsh.
David is a man.
I couldn't remember.
I think David should be on Jeopardy. That would be hilarious. Anyway, so boy, I just got sidetracked by that.
We're going to give tips.
We are going to give tips.
Remember.
But I was talking about Jeopardy and how these people just amaze me on how much stuff they could store up in their mind.
And they can recall it so quickly, right?
Yeah. So it's that type of stuff. We're going to say there are some simple techniques. Look, not to be a master memorizer, because we've had some of them come into the office.
I think that's so cool.
Yeah, how they could go through a list of people, remember everything they said. I mean, these guys are at a whole different level, but it's going to be about one of the things we're going to be talking about today. But maybe not to that level. Let's
just
go
some
some
simple things to
simple.
make your life. Yeah.
Let's start off. You start off with one simple tip there, lovely wife.
So I do have a terrible memory, and I think part of it is like I don't try to do, and well, I do some of these things, but I don't use some of these things. So actually, when I was a school teacher, I knew that I had to memorize the names of those kids as fast as possible that first day. So that I
gosh, you must have been in trouble.
No, I was awesome at it. Yeah, if you've ever taken one of my classes, I can do it because you can use some techniques to help you to remember things. But instead of the techniques, let's just talk about daily habits that can just easily boost your memory, and that is getting enough sleep, eating right, all of those things. But exercise is actually one of the things that is absolutely proven to help you with memory. So, and it's there's some study that I read that if you're studying something and you're trying to retain the information, that if you study it And then 3 or 4 hours later, exercise like brisk walking or some kind of aerobic exercise, that you are more likely to retain that information than if you did an exercise. And furthermore, exercise over time has a compound effect on memory. So you don't have to, yeah, that's a skill. You got to get into it and you got to be disciplined, but that's a simple thing that you can do because it reduces stress, it reduces anxiety, both of which suppresses cognitive ability and also blood flow and things like that.
There. Cognitive ability. If my calculations are correct.
He loves my big words. He'll use it later. So anyway, exercise, sleep, eating right, those things physiologically take some of the stressors out.
Well, they do say exercise actually creates brain cells.
Makes parts of your brain something more dense or bigger or something. Is my head getting bigger? Because I exercise every day.
No. See, there's a lot of this.
You know what he does to me in the morning? He gives me a little neck massage. He says, "Gotta get that blood flowing into your brain. You're gonna need it today." I like it.
Doesn't work.
No.
I'm kidding. But no, really, they talk about exercise that it increases the blood flow in the brain.
Of course.
And they does say, there was a study saying that it does increase brain cells. So I don't care. You look it up.
You got some
fact check.
I didn't increase brain cells. You never make more brain cells.
You know, look, we're going to sidetrack
You don't
for a
make
second.
more brain cells as you grow,
People go to that
regenerate.
That Snopes thing. Snopes to fact check.
Don't. It's stupid.
You know, it's ran by like two people that
make it up.
One of them ran off with a prostitute. That's what I heard. Anyway.
Okay, fact, go.
Come on, we are just full of facts today. So here's another one. Concentrate for 8 seconds. And there you go, 8 seconds. Think about how long 8 seconds are. We're living in a world that things are so fast, they're moving so fast. 8 seconds is actually a long time for a lot of us to process.
Like if you meet somebody new, you should be like this. "Hi, your name is Chuck."
And I'm like, no, you don't keep repeating it like a psycho.
For 8 seconds.
Not out loud, that's for sure.
Right.
But you're supposed to dwell on it for 8 seconds. And what they say is that it puts it into your memory. You're basically telling your brain,
that's important to
remember. This is important to remember.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Don't get rid of it. Don't make that the 90%. Make that part of the 10%. See, I'm good at math too. 90, 10. That's 100. So anyway, concentrate for 8 seconds. You know, the other thing that it actually helps you do is actually practice listening. Because
to focus.
I can tell you, I'm sorry.
This is true. I'll ask him. I say, "Can I tell you something?" Yes, I tell him, and then he goes, "I'm sorry. Can you just start over? I wasn't listening to you at all."
I was not listening.
Right.
And then she'll say it again, and I'll back. I was not listening.
Well, I know that is a problem just in general. There's so much information coming at us, and we're trying to focus our attention in so many places at once. It's just not the way your brain can work. So that focusing for 8 seconds is like just being intentional about what you're trying to pay attention to without
a simple way of doing it. So that was the next one.
The next one that I want to talk about, which is really interesting, is visualization. Taking the time to put pictures with words. A picture is worth 1,000 words is a true statement for a reason. So, for example, I was reading about the top memory champion and the different kinds of techniques that they utilize in order to remember seemingly random information, but what they do is they don't leave it random. So for example, visualization, and it's got to be, the more outrageous it is, it's almost easier to remember. So if I have a grocery list of, for example, blueberries.
Blueberries.
I like blueberries.
Oh, okay.
Blueberries, bagels, broccoli, nacho chips, ice cream, and cereal.
What house do you live in?
One with kids. And so if I were to say, if I just took a second, and this is just for practice, not that this is practical, but practicing visualization is practicing a skill. So if I picture myself sitting at a table, chopping broccoli. You guys know what that is, right? Chopping broccoli. And then there's a blue bear, which surprises me, and a bagel, like a bagel flying. And then I think, okay, I scream because I thought I saw a serial killer. And then I say, that's not yours. And so then I know it's blueberries because of the blue bear. And I remember chopping broccoli, and I remember bagels because of the flying bagel. And I remember you put a picture around it.
Everybody's tuning out.
I scream cereal. No, if you make a picture, a visualization, you can recall it because you're placing something to it that sticks the information. It's something to stick to it.
Oh, I see. And it does work.
It does work.
You
Absolutely.
remember that chopping broccoli.
Chopping broccoli and nachos.
Does anybody know chopping broccoli?
I don't even remember what that's from, but I remember chopping broccoli. Just like I remember.
I would bet you David Marsh knows that too.
What about the most famous phone number in history? What's the most famous phone number in history? Does anybody know?
Song.
Oh, yeah.
You asked me a question.
Okay, then what is it? Sing it.
No, I'm not singing it.
867.
Okay. All right. All right.
Right?
Okay, we're losing everybody.
It's okay. Go.
Anyway, next one is focusing your attention. You know, and I'm notorious for this. I'm one of those people that say I can multitask. Well, I think that it's a fact that you can't multitask. And so if you want to, I'm looking at David's thing. I don't know what he's.
Because I probably said it wrong, which is hilarious.
All right. There you go, David. I'll give you one.
There you go.
All right.
Okay.
Yes.
I was close.
Anyway, so focusing your attention. You can't multitask. So one of the things is if you want to absorb information and you want to retain it, go to quiet areas. Shut the TV off. Shut the music off. I know a lot of people, and I know I'm one of them. I love background noise.
I hate background noise.
I love background noise. As a matter of fact, I feel like if I don't have background noise, I start to go stir crazy. But I know in my mind that background noise is actually going to affect me. It's going to affect what I'm absorbing, what I'm retaining into my long-term memory. Even being in a room alone is important. You know,
when you really need to focus.
Boy, at work, we're like in a room of 1,000 people.
I know.
And I think I'm getting more work done now than I ever have. But it's focusing, it's concentrating, it's pondering on what you just heard. It's really taking your time and think.
And processing information. We don't do that very often. We don't take the time.
Most of mankind doesn't do it now. We're in such a move type of society that we don't do that.
You know what's really interesting? Some of our best conversations, and when we recall and when we ponder things, is when we're taking a walk. We do that quite often. And funny thing is I remember those conversations really, really well, as opposed to conversations that you have in passing or where you're not really focusing or there's too many distractions. So that is a definite thing that is helping with memory.
You know, remember this too. The brain is an organ, not a muscle. But the brain could be worked out like a muscle. Mm-hmm. It can be trained. And I think if you guys are struggling out there with remembering things
or focusing,
work at it. You know, that is one of the reasons why we're so fascinated with the mind and what God created us here. I think is so powerful that we underestimate its power. Mm. And one of the things that I do constantly, I don't know if you do it, but I do it constantly. I'm always asking for God to let me use my brain more than anything else. Like, I love and seek the power of the brain. And that's why I think I can visualize things. And so it's, I'm like working it out.
Right.
So guys, practice doing that. And you will see a lot of things in your life change, because I know I have because of that.
One of the things that I learned when we were looking at this topic is something that's called, and I'd not heard of it before, and I think it's really fascinating. It's called the memory palace. Apparently, it's really widely used by professional athletes to remember things. And what the concept means is you have to attach information to things you're super familiar with. So, for example, your house. You probably can visualize most of the major things that are in your house, your front door, maybe the something that's right inside your front door, your kitchen table, just different features that are very, very easy for you to bring to your mind's eye. And then when you're trying to memorize, this concept says, take the things you're trying to memorize and place them in the house. So I'll use a grocery list again. So if I have a grocery list and maybe it's milk, so I could, and it has to be crazy, like I could picture milk coming in through my front door. And I could,
like walking
bear
in?
Bear with me. No, like running in. Or if bananas could be, instead of light bulbs, I can see the bananas coming out of my lights. Or French fries in my.
I apologize.
No. This is a real trick, a memory trick. So if I mentioned.
Sounds more like a psychedelic trip.
But it works. So let's say I was going to get French fries. Maybe they're my knives, right? Coming out of my knife holder. Steak. My dog. I picture my dog eating steak.
What do you look at me as? A cow? Moo. My granddaughter.
Oh my gosh! Call him a moo.
She calls me moo. And then my daughter's like, is Grandpa a cow?
And then the other thing is, let me just go through it so you can understand it. If you need cheese, maybe you see a mouse, because we have mice, running across your backyard.
Rats.
And then let's say wine's on your list. Well, you don't need to attach that to anything because you're not going to forget the wine. So if I make these outrageous pictures.
Go ahead.
Which this is a real thing. Look it up. Memory Palace.
So is what.
Shut up. So you can picture chocolate chip cookies, whatever you do. But if you're picturing it and you're attaching the information to different places in your house, that is a trick to learn information.
But alcohol to not remember.
The things I do. Oh.
Look at the way it's here. And that is another simple trick. Don't drink so much alcohol. They actually say alcohol affects your memory.
Oh man, I'm doomed.
I'm doomed because I live with you.
So anyway, the Memory Palace, it's sticking information to things you're super familiar with.
Speaking of palace, is Sheridan on here? Hey Sheridan, are you on the call? Here's the next one. The next one is motivate to remember. This is probably something I didn't realize for many years, and this is what I do the most. And I really believe it's the reason why, and I know I might get a lot of backlash for this, guys. I don't believe in schooling. I am not a big proponent of the school system the way it is.
You mean the way that it's, you're not against school, you're against the way
school.
It is.
But
right now, I love school. I wish it was back in session.
Here's the crazy thing. So this is where it falls into this. Now the stuff I'm learning and seeking and storing is because I'm motivated. I'm motivated by what I'm learning. So sometimes what you're trying to learn is because you don't really like what you're doing.
Yeah.
And you're not motivated by it because, I don't know, I'm constantly seeking knowledge. And it's really cool because when you're motivated, one thing leads to another. And after you learn that, you're like, oh my gosh, then I can learn this and this and this. And all of a sudden you're focused on it, motivated, and now you're storing it. And I really believe it's one of the reasons why kids have a hard time learning a lot or storing a lot is because they're just not motivated. But you give them something that they want to learn, like video games.
Right. It's
oh
motivation
my gosh.
For sure.
You see little kids remembering how to do that. It's because they're motivated.
Right.
That's another one.
Right. So I guess one of the other things that you just have to do to realize from what we're talking about today is it's intention, right? When you're focusing on giving attention to spending the time, using different techniques. That's why music really helps some people to remember. And I don't mean like background noise, wear music while you're trying to learn, but putting songs like, who doesn't know 50, Nifty, United States?
You remember a lot of crap now.
Yeah, I know. Nothing I remember is useful, but because it was to a song you remember, so you can practice those things.
I have to put Mike's up here.
Hi, Mike
is a long time.
Oh my gosh, we've known him forever.
Yeah. Chuck and Angel.
I am an angel.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mike. At least he notices my better qualities.
God bless you too. And then, do you have any more left?
No, mine were really good.
I'm going to finish it off with this. boy, God created us with this mind that could store information, long-term information. I don't think there's any other creature on the planet that could do that. And that is such a gift. That is such a gift, guys. And it's a unique quality as a human being. And I think that when you're given a gift, you should take advantage of it and not let it go to waste. So these are little simple, silly tricks that we're teaching, but they actually can affect your life and help you out in your life through memory and just making your life better.
Yes.
So we appreciate you guys tuning in for another week of Midweek Mindfreak. You guys have a great day and great week.